Floyd, co-chair of Indivisible Tacoma, and Julianne Teskey is co-chair of Indivisible Tacoma. And we welcome you to meet Emily Randall. The main thing we do is elect responsive candidates, and we lobby for policies for the public good. So we're a nonprofit organization, but we only endorse and work for the candidates that support our values and work for the public good. And that's why Emily is one of those people. And we're really excited to have her here. Please, we have done some early endorsements. So there's a list of people that have we've already endorsed, and pick that up at the back. And we also have some of our reports for what we have accomplished. Indivisible has been pretty well known for our door knocking, for our support of candidates. We do sign waving, we do sign posting, we host candidates and introduce them to people, and we just are overall getting out information and making sure that candidates win. That's what we want. And then we lobby for the good policies too. So if you're interested, pick up one of our reports from just last year, and then we have a report that tells you what we've done since our inception. And I want to say hi to Marty Campbell. I see him back there. He's going to be running for auditor this year. So assessor treasurer. Sorry. And Jenny Hitchen is here. She's running for District 6 for the county council again, and we for sure want to keep her. And then we're going to have some people here that are going to speak about Emily, and I will have Ellen introduce the first one. One of the candidates we were super happy and proud to work for this year, it gave us great joy, is the wonderful Jamika Scott. And to get her onto the city council, I mean, we all were jumping for joy. And it's no accident that she has that she's an artist, and she has a creative way of getting people involved. And so that's why we're so excited to have her here. So come on up.
For always, rallying people together. And, I had the privilege of seeing just how impactful Indivisible can be when it comes to just getting people together, activating communities, making sure that, we're supporting and being champions for candidates who are just community-minded, they're justice-minded, they're democracy-minded, and they're actually people who are looking to fight for the good that they see in communities. They're not necessarily, always, they're very aware of what the issues are, but they look to find the positive by finding the people who we can get behind and doing their best to mobilize us all, which is not surprising that they have also thrown their support behind Emily Randall, because she's also a person who wants to bring people together, who wants to create change that is lasting, that is impactful, that is equitable, whether it's in our healthcare systems or our environment, or, like I said, again, which is really important, our democracy. Emily has always been a person who is thoughtful and listens, but is also very clear in what she stands for. And that's what I really appreciate. Going through being a candidate, but even before then, just being somebody who is invested in my community, somebody who is interested in being engaged and understanding that we have a lot of things to work for, and that the best way to work for them is together. What I really appreciate about Emily is that she brings love to what she does. And so I see that in myself as well. And so when I look at the work that Emily does, when I look at the people who, go through just all the hard work to make sure that they can be in her corner. There aren't a lot of people now in the political world where when they say that they're going to be running for a position that you see so many people already willing to stand up and say, that's somebody I'm willing to get behind. And that made me take more notice. I had met Emily a few times at that point. But seeing the very warm welcome that the community gave her when she decided that this was the next step that she was going to take was also something that made me take notice, because I really, really, really put stock in what the people think. We all can have our own individual opinions. We can all be in our little silos. We can all get lost in our own little worlds. As a creative, I'm constantly lost in my own little world sometimes. But this is something that when you see that those values mirrored in the people who are supporting a candidate, the values that you hold dearly, it makes it a lot easier to say, you know what, let me go and see some more. Let me go figure out exactly who this person is, and make sure that all of the ways in which I can throw my support behind them, I'm gonna do. Starting out now, just by taking the time to introduce and to talk up and make sure that you all know why I'm supporting Emily, and just giving you all some of my insight to what I've been able to see and what I'm looking forward to, and if just in case those are the same things that you're looking forward and looking for in a candidate, those are the things, the values, the justice-minded, democracy-minded, community-minded people that I support, and I look forward to just bring change to our community. And I see that in Emily, so I'm really proud to be able to be here and to support her, so thank you all.
And I want to thank Hal Merrill, for the music. I really appreciate that. There were a number of people that talked to me about it and said it was very, very nice. And now I want to introduce our fabulous Port Commissioner. That's you now, Kristin Ang. And we have worked hard 2 times for Kristin, so we are so excited that she is president this year.
Oh yeah, so I'm Kristin Ang, president of the Port of Tacoma. Yes. I'm so grateful for Indivisible Tacoma for always supporting my campaigns and the type of politics that we want to see in Tacoma Pierce County. I must say that I have known Emily since 2017, when I first ran for Port. In fact, we met each other at PDC. For those who run campaigns, you know what that's all about. And I would say that the moment that I met Emily, I knew that she would be a leader in our area, that she would lead here in Tacoma Pierce County, Washington, in this Washington. And I'm so glad to support her to do the work in the other Washington. I'm gonna say this is a very critical moment in our democracy, in our country, and for our state. And it's not every day that you get to elect a Congress member. I used to always just say congressmen, but no, because we elect congresswomen too. And the last time we elected was 12 years ago. Think about the impact of what a member of Congress can do in 12 years and who we want to send out there. Like I said, I did know Emily since 2017, and I knew then that she would be a force. And there were people who underestimated her, I think, when she first said she wanted to be a representative, a senator, and I was like, you guys don't even know you guys don't even know. At that time, the 26 LD was all red. It's not like I'm super bipartisan or anything, but the kind of red that was there was, I would say, some of the worst kind. The last opponent that Emily had was Jesse. I'm not even going to say last name because I forgot at this point because he's history and Emily's there, Senator Emily Randall, but she has always won the tough races. She has always fought and she never backed down on who she was and the kind of values and the platform that she's working for. She never backed down, even though they said, oh, this district is not prepared for that. I've heard the same thing about Pierce County and Tacoma. They're not prepared for you. These kind of concepts, this kind of ideas, we're not ready. That is not true. The people have been wanting. When it comes to healthcare, reproductive care, I would say even her work, she is the chair of the workforce and higher education. So we're not all about LGBTQ rights. We do other things too. We think about economic prosperity. So when I think of who would you like to send to Congress, what kind of person? And it all comes down to the person, D or R. It comes down to the heart and values of that person and how much of a fighter they really are, because that's what it's going to take to move Congress. And it's not even sometimes against another party. It's just about the culture within your own. And that's why I do support Emily Randall for Congress, and I have utmost confidence that she will do an amazing job and she will lead and provide for all of us and actually have that leadership that empowers us here in our region. So thank you, Emily, for running.
Well, I'm so excited to be here with all of you, with Kristin, with Jamika, with Indivisible, with my neighbors. This race is so much about community. It's about the kind of future that we believe in, the kind of future that we believe is possible, and that we're committed to building together, hand in hand, arm in arm, step by step. You know, Jamika talked about love being so important in politics, and I think about that a lot. My wife is a little bit pessimistic between the two of us. And, you know, many times over the years, she said, do you actually believe we can make a difference? Do you believe that we can make change? And shouldn't we just give up and move to some tropical island or some European country and live a little easier? And for me, you know, I can't help but be an optimist about our country. It's a country that I love so much and that I really believe in. And I know that patriotism looks like expecting the best of this country that we live in and working towards making sure that we can live that future together. And we have to do it with love, and we have to do it with bravery and without compromising our values, but in looking at how we build relationships. And so I'm really excited to be here with you today, strengthening the relationships that we have and committing to the fight and the work ahead. I know a lot of you in this room, but for folks who are new faces, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Emily Randall, and I'm running for Congress in the 6th District. I grew up across the bridge on the Kitsap Peninsula, and I've lived in the 6th Congressional District for 25 years of my life. My parents graduated from high school in this district. My grandparents on both sides moved here to Washington because they believed in economic opportunity and building a better future for themselves and their families. My dad's parents, both sides, moved because the naval base Kitsap, because that's where the jobs were when they moved here in the 50s and 60s. My dad's parents moved his family from Utah because they were also facing workplace and housing discrimination because of their race. My grandparents, who both died last year, were Chicano, and they saw their kids growing up in a community that wasn't welcoming, where they wouldn't have the same opportunities, and they wanted better. And so they moved here, and they lived in the same house in East Bremerton since 1967, and they promised me year after year that they would only leave there in a coffin, and they were successful. You know, I mean, what I learned from my grandparents was not only stubbornness, but it was also a belief in their community, a belief that this place could be better for their kids, that through service, they could make it even better. You know, my grandpa was a Marine combat veteran who then worked as a sheet metal worker for many years. My grandma worked as a hospital housekeeper for Harrison Hospital for 25 years. I saw them committed to building a better future for their kids, their grandkids, their neighbors, and strangers they hadn't even met yet. And those are the values that I grew up within our family. I never knew that I wanted to be a politician. You know, I thought I wanted to do something to give back. And it wasn't until the 2016 election that I knew that politics was for me. I was the first in my family to go to college, and I went across the country because Washington State had been underinvesting in our system of higher education for decades. It was cheaper for me to go to a private school, including with the plane ticket, 3,000 miles away, than it would have been to go to Western. And so I left. I went to Wellesley in Massachusetts because that's where I could afford it. I'm really grateful that that's the choice that I make. But when I left, I thought, you know, I was a high school student leaving Port Orchard, Washington. I thought I might never come back. And I got a chance to work at some really amazing organizations after I graduated as the first in my family from college. I worked at Children's Hospital Boston when they started their gender clinic. I worked at Wellesley, at my alma mater, raising money for financial aid so that more first-generation students and students of color could afford to live their dreams. My wife and I moved to California, where I worked at the San Francisco AIDS Foundation, and we were focused on ending HIV-related deaths and transmission and stigma in the birthplace of the HIV epidemic. And then I got a job at Planned Parenthood in 2016 with so much optimism about what our country might be able to do. And I think we all remember. I saw your faces when I said 2016. We remember what it felt like that night. And that was the night when I realized I could not raise enough private money to save the gaping holes that were being ripped in our safety net, to ensure that women and kids and LGBTQ folks had access to the healthcare that they needed when and where they needed it. And that's when I decided to run for the state senate in that bright red district that Kristin mentioned, across the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, that hadn't elected a Democrat in a very long time, and where people told me that we couldn't do it, that as a queer Latina who worked at Planned Parenthood, that I was too much for the district. And, you know, I remember thinking, this is the district where I grew up, you know, where my family is from. Like, what does that mean if those of us who live here, who grew up here, who are of this place are too much for it? And so it lit a fire under me, and I wanted to prove that our voices mattered too, that our experiences mattered. And that, you know, it wasn't just about who we loved or what we looked like. It was about what we faced together as a community and how we could build better together. And with the help of neighbors on this side of the Tacoma Narrows Bridge and all the way up in Port Townsend and Port Angeles and from Seattle, we won that race in 2018 by 102 votes. I couldn't have done that work without you. I know so many of you came over and knocked doors or made phone calls or contributed money to make sure that we were able to flip the Senate seat in the 26th. And then again in 2022, it was the most expensive legislative race in the state. And we won again because our voices together and our feet together knocking those doors and, you know, our vision and dreams and hope for the future together won. I'm optimistic about our country because I have seen the things that we can do together. And I'm optimistic that in 2024, we can elect better representation in the 6th District and all around the country. We can elect people who share our community's stories, who are facing the same challenges, and who will bring your voices with us to make change in the other Washington. I'm really grateful for all Derek has done and for the role model that he has been for me as an elected official. So when I say better, don't take any of that as a comparison. What I mean is, when we think about what the next 12 years look like, when we think about where we go from here, are we bringing the voices of all of us with us to Washington, D.C.? Are we bringing the issues that matter so much in the lives of everyday people who are struggling to pay their bills, who are struggling to access health care, people who are moving to Washington State because their LGBTQ kids are not safe in other states, people who, like my grandparents, are moving to Washington State because they want a better life and future for their kids, their families? Are we bringing the voices of folks who have long been committed to a healthier planet, to building a future for our Earth and our community that is more equitable, that ensures that we're not doing the same things the same way because we've always done them that way, but that we're imagining what generations after us might be able to experience because of the work that we do? I'm really excited. I'm really optimistic. I've seen what we can do together, and I know that we will continue to work harder, not just for this race, but for all of our neighbors, for all of our futures. Reproductive rights are on the line, our democracy is on the line, our environment is on the line, and Trump is on the ballot again. And this is a year, I know we keep saying this year after year, but this is a year where we have to lay it all out, where we have to invest every spare dollar, where we have to make sure to carve out an extra hour, an extra weekend to knock doors, where we have to make sure to bring men to volunteer shifts, because there is so much at stake. I'm really grateful to be here with all of you today, to be in solidarity, to know that we've got this together, and to continue working for a future that's better and brighter and more equitable for all of us. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks. We are all thinking about 2024, and I heard her say a couple things like knocking doors. So if everybody in this room thought of 4 things you could do to help Emily this year, or right now this spring, there are lots of things. And that's one of the things Indivisible does, is mobilize people, get out on the doors, get letters to the editor, do sign waving, just all the things that we do to help you build your networks and get the word out. There are so many things we can do. And that's what, if you get the Indivisible newsletter, you'll see the opportunities for how to get involved and do all the things you want to do. So thank you, Emily. And next we're going to hear from our wonderful Tacoma School Board Director, Lisa Keating is here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Keating. I'm currently the president of the Tacoma School Board. I have a couple other fancier titles. Part of what drew me to come and speak in support of Emily, outside of my personal connection and our family's connection with Emily, I am the legislative representative for Tacoma School District as well, and have been for 3.5 years. And I also serve as the chair for the Federal Relations Network Committee for the Washington School District Association. And so I do, as you can hear, legislation. So I do a lot of advocacy in public education in the K-12 space. And I just got back on Thursday night from a week in DC doing just that, meeting with our federal agencies, meeting with our federal delegation, and also with a group of other school board directors from across Washington State. And this is the 4th time I've been on the school board since 2019, just in time for a pandemic. So that was fun. And I have been kind of catapulted into all the different ways that government impacts our lives through a crisis, through a global crisis. Emily was there during all of that. Emily understands what public education needs. She understands from the state perspective and how the ways that the state funds education and the gaps of those pieces, right, from a state and federal place. She understands special education and the priorities and the importance of special education from a personal perspective and also as a leader in our state. And she is a champion for education, just period, whether it's for pathways to higher ed. We have a first-generation college student who is a freshman this year. She personally understands what that means. She understands that from our family's perspective as well. She understands the issues and the complexities of coming out of a pandemic for public education, which I cannot express enough how complicated it really is. And one of the things that I have done for years is gone back to the federal government and said, please fund the IDEA, which is the act that was passed 50 years ago for special education. And it is an unfunded mandate, which I'm sure we all have heard that term before. But what that actually translates to is that the federal government doesn't do what they need to do and what their commitment is out of a legal standpoint. And the state also doesn't fully fund their portion. And so, but we also need people like Emily and in both the state legislature and in Congress who understand how are these systems interacting? How do they intersect? Where are the gaps? And how do we address those issues and those concerns? And I have spent every year in DC talking about special education. And something that is really terrifying to myself and all of my colleagues across Washington State, and I see one of my colleagues in the room right now, is that the current Congress it has a plan to gut Title I funding by 80%. That was what they introduced last August. So just right? So much is on the line. And we have made some really huge strides. We have a lot more work to do, but we've made some huge strides on the awareness, on the needs of access to supports for students with disabilities, without disabilities, visible, invisible disabilities, LGBTQ youth. I'm the parent of a trans child. I need someone like Emily that understands what that means, because the current Congress also wants to ban the existence of my child and anyone like her, and wants to make sure she doesn't have access to the things that a human being needs to access. So if we don't fight for someone like Emily to be in Congress, there is more than just public education at stake. Our ability to live as whole human beings is at stake. And it requires money, it requires labor, our labor, and if we want someone that truly understands what it's like to live in the 6th Congressional District and has our shared lived experiences, we need Emily in Congress. So I'm going to stop there because I think you all pretty much know what's at stake on a federal level, but I just want to say that I spend quite a bit of time educating other legislators and elected officials on what does public education funding look like and what does it need? And I don't have to work that hard with Emily. And so I'd be really grateful if we could work to get Emily in Congress.
So we have an elections team that we would really like to invite you to join. It's really just gearing up now, and we actually have our first canvassing day for Emily on March 3rd. So we're going to be out on the doors here soon. And we are talking about a lot of other candidates. We're looking at Janny's race. She's going to have a challenging race. We want to make sure that's there. Marty's going to have a challenging race. We have a lot of excellent people to work for up and down the ballot, all the way up and then all the way in our state. We've got a governor's race. We have an excellent treasurer. There's so many people that we want to make sure that we keep those people and we get new people in, like Emily. So please, the elections team meeting is on February 23rd. It's a Friday at 11 o'clock at the Red Elm Cafe. You probably won't remember that, but it'll be in our newsletter. And then the first door knocking will be on March 3rd. It's a Sunday morning. We're going to start out. And join us. We're going to be involved. We're excited about what we can do. And thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Emily, for coming over and meeting some of our people. And thank you for coming. And please get some cake if you haven't had any, or get some more if you've already had a piece. It's Marlene's cake. And I have to say, Marlene's is a great place. So I'll give them a little boost for a private business here that's has a lot of organic food. So thank you very much for coming. Enjoy talking with each other.